Homage to the fundamental teacher Buddha Shakyamuni. Homage to the wisdom warrior Manjushri. Homage to all the benevolent lineage masters. The supreme Dharma, infinitely profound and subtle, is rarely encountered, even in millions of eons. Now we are able to hear, study, and follow it. May we fully realize the Tathagata's true meaning. In order to liberate all sentient beings from samsara, may we all generate the supreme bodhicitta. Now, let's continue our study of words of my perfect teacher. We are learning about the proper conduct of listening to Dharma. We have discussed the behaviors to be abandoned. Now we move on to the ones to be adopted. Among the behaviors to be adopted, the first one, reliance on the four metaphors, has been explained. Now we will proceed to the second, the practice of the six perfections. During our listening to the Dharma, we also need to practice the six perfections. As everyone knows, regarding the six perfections, all-knowing Longchenpa stated in Finding Rest in the Nature of Mind that when practicing Mahayana Buddhism, the six transcendent perfections are indispensable. Because when we truly benefit sentient beings, we do so through the six perfections. Any Buddha, either on the causal ground or when they benefit sentient beings, they rely on the six perfections. Therefore, any practitioner who studies, listens to, and propagates the Dharma must practice the six perfections. This is crucial. Without practicing the six perfections, whatever is practiced cannot be considered Mahayana Buddhism. Therefore, in our daily practice and dissemination of the Dharma, we should carefully observe our conducts. This is very important. Next, I will explain that during the process of listening to the Dharma, in fact, we also practice the six transcendent perfections. As stated in the Pith instructions to all practices in the Tantra of thorough comprehension, when we listen to the Dharma, we should be able to practice the six transcendent perfections. It is not as some people think, that when one practices generosity, they have to give up discipline. When they uphold discipline, they cannot practice patience. And when they practice patience, it would be impossible to practice diligence, meditation, and wisdom, as if the six perfections are like separate mountains, independent and distinct. This way of thinking is definitely wrong. As it is stated in the Ornament of the Sutras, or the Ornament of Clear Realization, and other texts like the Mahayana Sutra of the Six Paramitas, when practicing one perfection, the other five are naturally included. That is to say, within one transcendent perfection, the other perfections are all encompassed or practiced together. This is the highest state of the Mahayana Bodhisattva. When we studied Ornament of Clear Realization, you may have noticed that. In the final stages of practice, this is often mentioned, practicing one transcendent perfection while encompassing all others. This is the true application of main practice. It is the sign of completion of main practice, or culmination of practice. From the Immediate Realization Tantra, the text advises, prepare beautiful offerings like flowers and cushions. Maintain a clean, orderly environment and discipline your conduct. Cultivate profound respect for all living beings and develop genuine, unwavering faith in your spiritual teacher. Listen to his instructions without distraction and question him in order to dispel your doubts. These are the six transcendent perfections of a listener. This text explains it in this way. Each sentence explains one of the perfections. The listener must practice all six transcendent perfections. We should not think that now we can only listen to the Dharma and cannot practice generosity, cannot practice discipline or patience either. I can't practice all six transcendent perfections now because I am very busy in attending classes every day. How can I find the opportunity to practice generosity? We shouldn't think this way. Even if you don't have time to gather many poor and needy people to distribute financial offerings daily, it's okay. As long as you properly listen to the Dharma in an appropriate manner, Actually, when we listen to the Dharma, if we slightly adjust our conduct, we will certainly be practicing the six perfections. Some people who are not particularly familiar with Buddhism may think I should go out and find a way to gather some wealth, either through soliciting donations or by taking offerings, and then I can begin practicing generosity. Otherwise, in this life I will have few opportunities to practice generosity. If I don't practice generosity, I cannot complete the six perfections, so I should give up the opportunity of listening to the Dharma. This is not reasonable. This kind of thinking and saying is definitely wrong. As long as we have this method and this motivation, we can cultivate many merits. Conversely, if we propagate or listen to the Dharma in a way that is not in accordance with the Dharma, not only do we fail to cultivate the merits of the six perfections, but we also create many negative karmas. So when listening to the Dharma, we must pay special attention. Generally speaking, many great masters in Tibetan Buddhism always teach the rules of listening to the Dharma before any Dharma teaching, so most practitioners understand the basics. Some have never received any proper systematic and complete Dharma education, in which case they have no idea. Other than that, most people are relatively familiar with the methods of listening to the Dharma. We also hope that all these Dharma friends who have established a connection and received teachings, no matter what ethnicity you are, or which city you are in the future, when listening to the Dharma, you must do so in a proper and truthful manner. If you do so correctly, all the merits and benefits mentioned in the Dharma can arise in your mental continuum. We listen to the Dharma in order to attain liberation and to cultivate true merit. It is not just a superficial act. Some people think, if I don't attend the teachings, others might have gossip about me. So I pretend to join the group to listen to the Dharma and listen to a few sentences of the Dharma on the surface for now. But this is not the goal. In fact, having such a goal is not correct. We should first adjust our motivation and try to listen with the motivation of the great vehicle. Occasionally, ordinary people may develop selfish thoughts. At that time, we should try to rely on right mindfulness to overthrow the negative motivation and adjust it, making it align with a positive motivation, and then continue to listen. Therefore, when we listen to the Dharma, we must practice the six perfections. How do we practice them during the period of listening to the Dharma? Let's examine the verse in more depth. First, the line about offering flower seeds primarily emphasizes the practice of generosity, which is done a paramita. Before receiving teachings, this involves carefully preparing the teaching space, setting up the Dharma seat, arranging cushions, offering mandalas and fresh flowers. These acts of preparation and offering are themselves a profound practice of generosity. By listening to one class, we can actually complete all six perfections. How do we accomplish this? When listening to the Dharma, first of all, the teacher who transmits the Dharma definitely needs a Dharma seat. Then we can arrange a nice, dignified, and high Dharma seat. In front of the Dharma seat, we arrange some garlands. Also, the Dharma seat can't be completely bare. Simply placing a plank for the teacher to sit on will make the teacher surely feel pain and tired. This is not very good. We should arrange some cushions. The cushions, as His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche mentioned before, shouldn't be too soft. If they are too soft, the teacher will sink into them and may not be able to get out. This is also not good. In front of so many people, if the Dharma seat is particularly large, with a very soft foam in the middle, and the teacher sinks into it, it would not be comfortable for others to see it. Therefore, Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche used to say, the Dharma seat shouldn't be too soft, nor too hard, and we should place cushions. Then, in front of the Dharma seat and around it, we should offer some mandalas, garlands, lamps, etc. These should be offered according to tradition. But in our new temple, we are not allowed to do so. Several Dharma friends have expressed their disappointment. But there are special reasons, so I hope those Dharma friends understand. You can also make offerings in your own shrine, including some lamps and flowers placed in front of the Buddha statues. This is my suggestion. In principle, there are such requirements. To set up garlands in front of the teacher. In big cities now, we also ask everyone to listen to classes. When attending class, your teacher is on the TV screen. It's the same as being in a sutra hall. You should place some lamps in front of the TV. I was just joking, of course. Lamps are not necessary, but I've seen some lay practitioners, while studying together, use the TV to listen to teachings. TV could be seen as the manifestation of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas for many people. It plays a very important role. In this process, whether it's the TV or the room, if everyone works together to clean the whole room, making some decorations, this also counts as practicing generosity. If conditions allow, buy a better TV because it represents the teacher. So, buy a good one if you have money. I've seen several lay people whose houses are very nice. But the TV is broken and shabby, particularly old. Sometimes teachers appear on it in an undignified manner. Some lay people seem to just place it there as a formality. 10 or 20 people gathered together, with a small laptop on a table. No one can really see or hear properly. This isn't very good. In cities nowadays, conditions aren't that bad. So if necessary, for the sake of listening to the Dharma, people could pool their money and buy a larger TV for a few hundred yen. I think this wouldn't be too wasteful. Worldly people waste so much money on unnecessary eating and drinking. When it comes to something truly meaningful, many might think, if we pool money to buy a TV, it might be placed in just one household and become their belonging. This thought is unreasonable, or this one household has so many people to use it, so forget it. I'll just use my broken TV to do the class for everyone. This way, the effect is particularly poor. Indeed, nowadays, for teaching the Dharma, the teacher doesn't have to be physically present. What really matters is the convenient method we use to gain the benefit of the Dharma in our own mental continuum. This is the manifestation of a virtuous friend. This is the manifestation of the teacher. We should think this way. We should often think this way. Now, due to the advancement in science, the format of Dharma teaching has changed also. In the past, when one person gave a teaching, only a few could listen to the teacher in person. If it might be difficult to fit more people in one place, but now, in one location, thousands of people can listen simultaneously, or in different places, everyone can listen to Dharma at the same time. So this kind of equipment and method should be considered as the teacher. Therefore, in terms of practicing material generosity, it counts whenever you create good conditions for listening to the Dharma. In this process, some generous lay people from outside of Larungar buy some fruits and bottled water each time they listen to teachings. They distribute them to everyone as an act of generosity. In this way, the practice of generosity is fulfilled, and everyone feels happy, saying, yeah, let's go to that person's house because we always get something to eat. So the number of people in this group keeps increasing. Some other groups have nothing, not even drinking water. Then fewer and fewer people will join. Of course, people shouldn't act like this as if they participate just for eating something. But for ordinary people, sometimes practicing material generosity is necessary. If they don't have money, it may be impossible. We Tibetans have a saying, asking a poor person to give wealth is as impossible as asking a dead person to stand up. It is just impossible. So if you really don't have money, it will be difficulties to practice material generosity. But you can visualize or vow to give in the next life. That's also fine. However, if you have the ability and the money, you should practice generosity during listening to teachings. We often waste a lot of wealth on meaningless things. In short, when listening to the Dharma, if you do these meaningful things, that's practicing the practice of generosity. Then the second one, as we just talked about, following the rules of conduct. The verse on following the rules of conduct is explained as doing some good deeds wherever possible, like sprinkling water and cleaning the place, restraining oneself from disrespectful behavior. This is the practice of discipline. When listening to the Dharma in the temple or sutra hall where teachings are given, clean up the place, sprinkle some water or perfume and so on, doing such good deeds. Throughout the process, for the sake of listening to the Dharma, perform some good deeds. At the same time, restrain yourself from disrespectful and improper behaviors in body, speech, and mind. When listening to the Dharma, there are often some improper behaviors. All these improper behaviors should be completely eliminated. For long teachings, for instance, until a complete teaching is finished, all your behavior should be proper and respectful. For shorter teachings, during 1 or 2 classes, your behavior should be completely proper from beginning to end. In the past, during the process of listening to the Dharma, we often noticed that some great masters and those who practiced well, every day they would listen to the Dharma with a joyful heart as if they are drinking nectar. But some people, maybe due to past karma or due to their own habits, every time during the teacher's Dharma teachings, they whisper to each other and secretly do many things. This happens every time, which might be manifestation of their karma. We hope that during the process of listening to the Dharma, we must listen properly and respectfully with body, speech, and mind, as you cannot be attended to other matters during this time. We should eliminate any arrogance and behavior that belittles others, or any improper actions, as discussed below. All improper behaviors should be eliminated in the process of listening to Dharma. This is the practice of discipline. In fact, if we really try, all these 6 perfections can be accomplished. It is not difficult. If we are asked to dwell in the true emptiness of the threefold purity, and free from all conceptual elaborations, this might be difficult for many ordinary people. But if we are asked to practice these 6 perfections, as I have carefully observed before, as long as we can maintain mindfulness and awareness, and regularly examine our 3 doors, there should be no problem. This is the practice of discipline. Next is the practice of patience, which was just mentioned in the verse about not harming any living beings. Not harming any living beings, including even the tiniest ants, and enduring all hardships like extreme cold and heat. This is the practice of patience. This is kshanti paramita. During the process of listening to the Dharma, patience means avoiding harm to any beings, whether intentionally or unintentionally. For instance, when receiving teachings on a hot summer day and mosquitoes are biting you, true patience involves maintaining composure and compassion. You can't just kill the mosquito with a smack while listening to the teachings. Or if there are cockroaches or ants on the ground and you go smack. Doing this while listening to teachings is certainly a very terrible thing. Harming other large living beings while listening to teachings is impossible. You can't listen and kill yaks at the same time. That's unlikely. So, you must not harm living beings. At the same time, you must not harm the Vajra friends around you. Because while listening to the Dharma, many Dharma friends and Buddhist friends gather together. At this time, if someone is ill-tempered or they behave improperly, they might start attacking others with words, slandering or belittling others while listening to the Dharma, as if they usually have no time to do so. They bring their grudges to the surface and start fighting. This is unreasonable. So we should not harm any living beings. Moreover, when listening to the Dharma, no matter how hot or cold the weather is or how long the teaching session lasts, you must endure all kinds of difficulties. Now, when we listen to the Dharma, there are indeed some difficulties. Going from your home to the place of Dharma teachings is not such an easy task. Here, in some cities, you often have to spend money for transportation. Without spending money, it's impossible to walk as it is beyond walking distance. Here in Larangar, we don't spend a penny on listening to teachings. Every time we listen to teachings, we just walk from home to the sutra hall. It costs nothing. But people in cities are not like this. Without spending money, either for life release or listening to teachings, they really face many difficulties. For 100 days of life release, some people have to spend thousands of won a year just on transportation. For the average person, this is a huge amount. For some people with very low income, it may also be quite expensive to listen to the Dharma, as they take public buses, taxis, and go to places to listen to the Dharma. Sometimes when they meet with many Dharma friends, they also treat each other to meals. The cost may be beyond their affordability. If your patience is poorly cultivated, it may bring feelings of miserly. Because for some people, spending money is more painful than cutting their flesh. If you cut a bit of flesh, it might not be a problem, but taking out money which is viewed as more precious than the heart. So this is also a form of patience. Actually, during listening to the Dharma, this aspect is also practicing patience. And when listening to the Dharma, if you can accept whatever the teacher says, this is also a form of patience. For some people, maybe due to karma from their past life, when the teachings are simple, they think it's too shallow, nothing worth to listen to. Blah, blah. What's he talking about? The sooner the class ends, the better. They feel annoyed. Sometimes, when the teaching is too deep, they say, I can't understand this. It's like astronomy. I don't understand it at all. Might as well forget it. Just wait until the class ends. They then become annoyed again. Some people may feel this way. But for those with deep roots of virtue, no matter what the teacher teaches, be it simple and easy to understand, or extremely profound Dharma, they are willing to accept them all. Personally for me, no matter what the teachers teach, be it simple Dharma or profound Dharma, I never feel aversion, and I'm always joyful. Every time I study a Dharma, I truly feel an indescribable joy in my heart. Looking from the aspect, maybe it's true that I had listened to and contemplated Dharma in past lives. I'm not entirely sure, because when I used to study physics, chemistry, or worldly history, I often felt annoyed, thinking that sometimes what the teacher taught didn't make much sense. It wasn't the truth of the world. I had thoughts like that. But later on, when it comes to Dharma teachings, for example, in the Sutra of Wise and Foolish, there may seem like many ordinary stories. But when you think about them, the meaning inside is very profound. It's the same for the extensive biography of Shakyamuni Buddha. Generally speaking, as we call ourselves intellectuals, it's somewhat embarrassing for us to listen to stories with great joy. Usually, when someone else tells a story, we might not be especially eager to listen. But still, we're willing to accept stories from sutras. In the past, when His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche once taught the Sutra of Wise and Foolish, I felt that many of the stories there weren't truly memorized. Later, when the teacher was near his parinirvana, he taught it again, and I was very happy. So this might have something to do with my past life karma. There are some differences. But some people might not be able to tolerate various teachings, unable to accept deep Dharma, or unwilling to receive basic Dharma. This mindset indicates a lack of the practice of patience. No matter what kind of Dharma is taught, we should listen with a sense of gratitude and a joyful heart so we can receive them. In short, being able to accept the teachings from the teachers, this is the practice of patience. Now, Let's move on to the fourth one, the practice of diligence. The practice of diligence, as mentioned earlier, is to have the right and unwavering faith in the teacher and to completely eliminate all wrong views and misunderstandings towards the teacher and the true Dharma. One should listen to the Dharma with deep reverence, sincere devotion, and a joyful heart. This is truly the essence of the practice of diligence. The practice of diligence means that, during the process of the teaching, one eliminates all wrong views, doubts, and negative attitudes towards the teacher. If you seeing various defects in the teacher, harboring wrong views continuously, even developing anger towards the teacher, this is very unreasonable behavior for a disciple. One should have deep reverence and joyful heart. The practice of diligence is based on a joyful mind. When receiving the teachings, it is very important for the disciples to develop a joyful mind. Without joyful mind, or if everyone looks sad, with a particularly painful expression, that is not reasonable. I once saw a video of a teacher giving a lecture at a Buddhist academy. I watched it and saw that teacher's expression. He was extremely happy and seemed very joyful. But when I looked at the disciples below, when they appeared, everyone looked very sad and very pained, as if each of them truly resembled one of the 18 arhats. Sometimes each person shows a different face, and not particularly happy. I don't know why they weren't happy. If I were the teacher, I might have to stop the lecturing. I wouldn't continue because there's no need to be so unhappy, no need to be so sad. But maybe everyone's teaching style is different. That teacher seemed very joyful. In general, during the process of listening to a teaching, no one should listen with an overly sad or angry expression. This is unreasonable. Everyone should be joyful. Why is that? Because it is truly an extremely rare opportunity to listen to the Mahayana Dharma teaching in millions of kalpas. Yet in our lifetime, we have gained such opportunities. It is not something that happens by chance, nor is it something we obtain through our own capability or bravery. It is the result of conditions accumulated over millions of kalpas. Through such auspicious circumstances, in this life, we have encountered the Mahayana Dharma and teachers who expound the Mahayana Dharma. Therefore, we should listen with a joyful heart. I hope in the future, all Dharma friends will maintain a joyful attitude when listening to teachings. So we should listen with a joyful posture and a joyful mood. I've seen that in some places, people easily develop a joyful heart towards the Dharma. But in some other places, it seems like listening to the Dharma is a kind of stress for them. This is unreasonable. For example, when a teacher in a worldly school gives a lecture, if all the students harbor anger and listen with a very displeased attitude, then perhaps the teacher would lose interest in teaching worldly subjects. So generally speaking, we should listen with joy. Now your expressions are becoming more and more compassionate. That's good, but this needs to be sustained. It can't be achieved in just one day. If you listen like this only for today, it won't be effective. You need to maintain this attitude over the long term. Among us, there are a few people from whom I've never seen a smile. Whether during the lecture or after class, they always have a straight face. You already know who you are. That is enough. Next, we finish discussing the practice of diligence. Now it's the practice of concentration. The practice of concentration, as mentioned in the verse, is listen to his instructions without distraction. Keeping the mind focused and listening attentively to the teacher's instructions, this is the practice of concentration. When listening to the Dharma, the mind should not wander or become scattered and distracted. The mind should be focused and wholeheartedly. From beginning to end, concentrated on the Dharma that the teacher is teaching. Actually, concentration is extremely important for everyone. Why? If the mind is not focused, as we mentioned earlier, the profound meanings of Buddhism cannot be fully understood. With a divided mind or constantly looking around, it is impossible to complete listening to teachings in such a state of mind. Therefore, the mind should not be scattered elsewhere. It should be focused and always listening to the teacher's instructions. Actually, this is what is called the practice of concentration. When we listen to teachings in our daily classes, we must let go of everything else. This should become a habit. In the beginning, if you practice like this every time you listen to teachings, you'll bring back your mind and focus. If your mind starts to wander as soon as you meditate or listen to teachings, thinking about this and that, then your mind will never be able to return. Actually, our mind is like small children. If we educate them well from the beginning, they can always behave properly. Similarly, the mind is indeed like a child. Every time you listen to teachings, you form a habit of concentrating. In every class, some people are always distracted, but they pretend not so. They have already been accustomed of not being focused properly. Then they might always listen to classes like this. Why is it that when something important is taught, yet after class people know nothing, even when they attended the class? What did your teacher teach today? It seems like nothing in particular. Nothing was taught. What did you listen to for the past hour then? Well, today, some things were mentioned. But what exactly was the content? Let me think. My mind seems blank. I can't remember anything now. I'll talk about it later. Some people truly feel very ashamed when they reflect on themselves. Even the most basic, simple words, they can't remember. The reason is that their mind wasn't focused at the time. Some people might not be able to do anything else, but they might have something in front of them and start drawing elephants and horses in their notebook. When teachers are lecturing, the naughty students often do this. The teacher begins teaching the content, and the student below starts drawing apples with a few eyes on them, and so on. They keep doing it. When the class ends, the drawing is also complete. So there are naughty students like that. In the past, when we attended classes, we often saw many people like this. We ourselves listen to teachings this way too. So I hope that in the future, when attending classes, on the one hand, we need to accomplish the practice of concentration. On the other hand, for the classes we attend, we must listen with full attention, with focused minds. For an ordinary person to concentrate completely for, say, 20 minutes, it might be difficult to stay focused for the entire 20 minutes. But after all, we are humans. And if we concentrate like this, we should be able to train ourselves. Like how a parrot is often taught to say Om Mani Padme Hum. Eventually, it gets used to it. And whenever it sees people, it says Om Mani Padme Hum. This is also a habit. It really is a habit that can be formed. So, as a person, there shouldn't be any problem to form such a concentrating habit. Next, we'll talk about the practice of wisdom. The practice of wisdom, as mentioned in the verse, is to clear up any hesitations and doubts. Raising questions, dispelling doubts, and eliminating all fabrications. This is the practice of wisdom. The sixth is the practice of wisdom. During the teachings, there might be some doubts and questions about the Dharma. These doubts can be discussed with the teacher and Dharma friends. Some personal doubts, wrong views, and ignorance like this can be dispelled through debate, discussion, and mutual inquiry. This will eliminate many of our false fabrications. What are false fabrications? These are wrong views, where you fabricate things that do not actually exist through your conceptual thoughts. There are many such wrong conceptual thoughts. These wrong conceptual thoughts are eventually eliminated through listening and contemplation. So, generally speaking, Nowadays are Tibetan Buddhist debates. If promoted within Buddhist communities, they can be very meaningful. Why? If you haven't entered the debate court, even if a small issue of the Dharma is brought up to you, you might turn red-faced and refuse to engage, thinking it's a personal attack against you. For instance, if you are being criticized, including now, some Dharma friends are making notes, drafting. At this time, when another Dharma friend says, "You shouldn't do it like this, you should make changes here," then your face may turn red, and you think, "Why are you blaming me? This is my way of doing things. You have no right to correct me." But it's not a competition of rights between people. When it comes to the truth, we can all offer reasonable suggestions. With an open mind, there's nothing wrong with it. Because you used to be narrow-minded, we Tibetans have a saying for that. Except for the stove, you haven't seen the world. Except for your mother, you haven't seen outsiders. So you've never witnessed some grand scenes, especially if you've never entered the debate court. You can't accept a single word of critique, thinking it's criticizing you. But that's not the case. The true meanings in Buddhism should be debated with each other. After the teacher's teachings, I hope many Dharma friends don't just rush off with your book after classes. There's no need for that. You should discuss with each other. In the beginning, during the discussion, there might be a little discomfort. When we first started debating, we often felt uneasy, but we never quarreled. Maybe I wasn't very good at debating, but over the past 10 years or so, with many wise and intelligent Dharma friends, we discuss questions in the Dharma, sometimes until very late every day. For example, from 6 in the evening until midnight, sometimes even until 2 or 3 in the morning, or even at 3 or 4 o'clock, we are still discussing a single question. Sometimes I went to a Khenpo's place, and we argued over a point. If we didn't clear it up today, we'd continue tomorrow. For half a month, we would clarify this issue. This leaves a deep impression on me, even until today. So the Dharma must be refined like refining gold, again and again, so we can eliminate doubts in our minds. In the presence of wise individuals, these doubts are destroyed. In this way, we ultimately understand the logic taught by the Buddha, and believe that the reasoning taught by the Buddha is supreme. In our own mental continuum, a very firm determination should arise. Otherwise, if at the beginning you don't come into contact with anything, you might think your conceptual thoughts are absolutely correct. But when truly wise people examine them, they can't withstand any scrutiny. Like pouring water on toilet paper, it immediately disintegrates. The wisdom you regarded as excellent, once examined by others' reasoning, can fall apart completely. So after classes, Dharma friends should guide each other, often discussing, and not getting angry during discussions. What's there to be angry about? Nothing. If someone says something, why are you talking about me like that? It's not about you. It's about the Dharma meanings. Now many lay people discuss with each other once or twice, and then let one sentence leave a permanent scar in their hearts. They'll never talk to each other again. How can that be? In the debate court, we use the sharpest language. Though it's not meant to mock others, it's still the sharpest language. Sometimes, intentionally or unintentionally, an attack is used to test the other's wisdom. For example, I know he obviously understands this point, yet I still use the sharpest language to attack his point. Such occurrences are very common in the debate court. But some Dharma friends have never entered such a battlefield before. They become like paper tigers, unable to withstand any examination. I hope that during the process of listening to the Dharma, it's not enough to just finishing listen and think that's sufficient. We should resolve some doubts. This is very necessary. So, these are the 6 perfections. All Dharma listeners should possess the 6 perfections. As I remember, Tsongkhapa in the Lamrim also said, if you can practice with the 6 perfections, the power is immense. Therefore, we must possess the 6 perfections in our listening to Dharma. This is very important. We should also, during our practice, examine ourselves to see if we possess these 6 perfections. This is very important. If we do not possess these 6 perfections, it means our practice is not in accordance with the Dharma. So we should observe this regularly. In the past, Master Ouyi from the Han tradition also said, when chanting the Buddha's name, you should also recite with the 6 perfections. For example, when chanting the Buddha's name, you let go of body, mind, and the entire world. Letting go of body, mind, and the world. This is the practice of generosity. When chanting the Buddha's name without greed or anger, this is the practice of discipline. When chanting the Buddha's name, remain unswayed by gossip or criticism, and avoid being stained by such distractions. This is the practice of patience paramita. Continuing to chant the Buddha's name without interruption or mixing with other practices represents diligence paramita. Maintaining focus without being pulled away by wandering thoughts demonstrates the practice of concentration paramita. Not being confused by other doctrines such as the teachings of non-Buddhists, this is the practice of wisdom. So he taught that you can also practice the 6 perfections when chanting the Buddha's name. Also, when we release captive animals, we can practice the 6 perfections as well. For instance, when we release animal beings, there is also practice of generosity of Dharma, as releasing animals is originally a generosity of no fear. This can be considered the practice of generosity. During the process of releasing animals, it also benefits sentient beings. Benefiting sentient beings includes not harming them while releasing them. From the perspective of the Hinayana, not harming is a form of discipline. From the Mahayana perspective, directly or indirectly benefiting sentient beings is also discipline. So this is the practice of discipline. When releasing animals, you encounter difficulties and suffer, such as others' rumors or attacks. If you can endure all of these challenges, this is called the patience paramita. For example, during the process of releasing animals, day and night, no matter how hard or tired you are, you continue to release them without interruption. Some dedicated practitioners release animals continuously throughout all seasons, year after year. This is the practice of diligence. During the process of releasing animals, your mind remains pure, without any ulterior motives, but solely thinking about how precious their lives are, and how you must help other beings attain freedom from suffering and achieve happiness. Such a mindset is the practice of concentration. Releasing animals in this way, by reciting mantras and sutras to bless them. When you bless other beings, their mental continuum generates wisdom. Or you can dedicate merit through the emptiness of the 3 spheres. This is also the practice of wisdom, of course. So, when we usually release animals, we can also possess the 6 perfections, according to view of Khenpo Ngawang Pelzang. A teacher of the Dharma can also possess the 6 perfections during teaching. How can a teacher possess the 6 perfections? Because a teacher is entirely for the benefit of sentient beings, without seeking fame or profit. Letting go of fame and profit represents the practice of generosity. During the process of teaching Dharma, one refrains from ridiculing, looking down on, or slandering others, instead teaching with sincerity and propriety. This embodies the practice of discipline. Throughout the teaching process, one develops the capacity to endure whatever personal suffering may arise, including when others raise questions, or when teach Dharma if you can accept profound Dharma principles, or if you can endure extreme cold and heat and persevere through challenges. This is the practice of patience. When teaching Dharma day and night, or at any moment, you complete it with a joyful heart, without interruption. This is the practice of diligence. During the process of teaching Dharma, your mind remains consistently focused on Dharma principles, concentrating deeply on its words and meanings. This is the practice of concentration. Those who teach Dharma must certainly possess strong meditative focus, because without concentration, it would be impossible to complete a single class. Sometimes it seems that, compared to listening, teaching is easier when the mind is fully concentrated. When teaching Dharma, the mind must be completely absorbed in its principles. Even a momentary loss of focus can interrupt the entire discourse. But listeners are not like this. You may be attending the Dharma class, but your mind is outside, engaging in all kinds of improper activities. Others might not notice, unless they have telepathic abilities. Listeners might be like mangoes, which have 4 types. Some people look focused, judged from their appearance, and indeed focused on the inside. Some people are very focused on the outside, staring intently, but their minds have run outside, so they appear to be focused, but not actually internally. This situation can happen. But for the teacher, if they lose focus internally even for a little while, they might not be able to speak. Right? Do you agree? So this is called the practice of concentration. As for the practice of wisdom, by teaching Dharma, the teacher can help the disciples generate the wisdom of listening and contemplation in their mental continuum. This is also the practice of wisdom, or the teacher themselves through the emptiness of the 3 spheres, teaching with the realization of dream or illusion-like wisdom, holding on to this wisdom state while teaching. This is called the practice of wisdom. In short, those who teach Dharma will also possess the 6 perfections. Therefore, as long as we have wisdom, whether listening to Dharma, teaching Dharma, releasing animals, chanting the Buddha's name, or doing other good deeds, the 6 perfections can be equally possessed and equally practiced. Next, we'll discuss following proper modes of conduct. As a listener of the Dharma, one must approach teachings with deep attentiveness and profound respect. The Vinaya Sutra provides clear guidelines about the appropriate conditions for receiving teachings. It cautions against instructing those who demonstrate disrespect through their physical posture or demeanor, such as covering their heads unnecessarily, carrying weapons or canes, or wearing elaborate head coverings. These instructions emphasize that receiving spiritual teachings requires not just mental openness, but also a physical and energetic attitude of reverence and receptivity. For some people, we should be aware that the Dharma cannot be taught. The mode of conduct in listening to Dharma is very important. So disciples themselves should also observe whether they are suitable vessels for Dharma. If they can't even follow these modes of conduct, then joining the groups of Dharma listeners is also unreasonable. First of all, they are disrespectful. You cannot teach Dharma to such people, because even from a worldly perspective, only with respect can you have the opportunity to gain wisdom. Without respect, even in a worldly teacher's lecture, you might not gain anything. The Dharma can only be taught to those who have respect for Dharma and teachers. If you are ill, there may be special permissions. But if you are not ill, according to some Indian customs, people often wrap their heads with shawls or cloths. Such people are not suitable for Dharma teachings. And also those who hold umbrellas. When it's hot or when it's raining, they hold umbrellas. If the teacher gives special permission, it's okay. If there is no permission, no matter how strong the sun is or how much it rains, it's best not to hold anything. When His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche taught in the past, sometimes special permission was given, allowing people to hold umbrellas while listening to teachings on the lawn outside. Sometimes permission was not granted, and disciples were required to practice ascetics, no matter how heavy the rain was. This was a form of ascetic practice for the Dharma. Do not hold umbrellas has always been a requirement. I remember when we were on the east peak of Mount Wutai, His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche was teaching the great perfection of Manjushri. By noon, it started raining heavily. Then the teacher said, "Now it's summer. Even the little sparrows outside won't freeze to death, so you'd better not hold umbrellas or cover your heads with shawls." We all stand still and listened like that. This also symbolizes respect for the Dharma. Everyone below got completely soaked, but we continued listening like this. The rain was particularly heavy, but they stayed there and listened. So, sometimes for the sake of Dharma, we practice patience. Nowadays, the worldly people might not do this. When a teacher is teaching, he may insist on holding an umbrella. If there is no umbrella, they feel it's impossible to listen in the rain. But actually, we should do it as a sign of respect for the Dharma. And holding a cane, carrying weapons, these are all symbols of disrespect. Wrapping heads, to such people the Dharma should not be taught. In the way of Bodhisattva, it is also said, do not teach the Dharma to the disrespectful, to those who, though not sick, wrap cloths around their heads, to those who carry weapons, staffs, or parasols, to those who are with covered heads. The verse from the Way of Bodhisattva is basically the same as the text cited here from the Vinaya Sutra. So when we listen to the Dharma, we must be proper and follow the right conduct. If you do not listen in this manner, teaching to the disrespectful people, or when listening to the Dharma and you start doing many improper things, this fault is very grave. You might even be reborn as an animal. As we mentioned before, if you are disrespectful while listening to the Dharma, in your next life you might become a parrot. Some teachers also teach this. The Chinese Buddhism also has such a saying. For example, in the Emperor Liang's Jeweled Repentance, I remember it says, having listened to the Dharma teachings, yet remaining indifferent in mind, this will lead to being reborn as a log-eared donkey. This means that when listening to the Dharma, if your mind doesn't focus on the meaning of the Dharma, then the consequences are very terrible. You'll be reborn as an especially stubborn, long-eared donkey. Reborn into such an animal state is also very pitiable. And in the Emperor Liang's Jeweled Repentance, it also says, while listening to the Dharma teachings, one gossips and distracts others from listening. This will lead him to the rebirth as a barking dog. This means, if during listening to the Dharma, your mind is not focused, and you even start doing improper things, whispering with Dharma friends, and saying some other words, sending messages now and then, or sneaking around, "Hey, how are you? How's your health recently? Are you okay? Come on, let's have a little meeting down here." It doesn't matter what's being taught over there, or eating snacks while listening. I see some people do that. In our Buddhist academy, after all, it's a proper Buddhist academy, a formal Dharma center. In our formal Dharma center, generally, improper behaviors like these are absent. But during the process of listening to the Dharma outside of our center, all sorts of improper things happen. Such behavior disrupts others' conditions to receive Dharma. As a result, they'll be reborn as yapping dogs in the next life. Yapping dogs, hearing the slightest sound, they start barking and yapping continuously, disturbing the peace around them. Those people will become like that. This is something from very famous texts written by some great masters in Chinese Buddhism. Those treatises mention this. So when we listen to the Dharma, we don't want to be reborn as dogs, donkeys, or parrots, these animals. I think this is unreasonable. I remember there was a great master who wrote Zermig, which says, when the Buddha was alive, there was a person listening to the Dharma. He listened to the Dharma for 3 years. On the outside, he always appeared to be listening properly. However, in his mind, he was constantly planning to kill, to steal, always generating evil thoughts. Later, he was reborn in hell. There's such a story. So listening to the Dharma should be beneficial for everyone. If you want to gain benefit for both you and others, then I hope you do so properly. Some teachings in the Vinaya Sutra, as we mentioned before while discussing the commentary of the 3 types of precepts, state that a monk should not teach to 26 types of improper people, those to whom the Dharma should not be taught. If a monk teaches to these people, it's considered breaching the precept by committing a minor wrongdoing. For example, to those people wear shoes, wear hats, hold umbrellas, weapons, etc. To these improper people, the Dharma cannot be taught. So now some people really don't understand the rules. I've seen some teachers in the past who also wore small hats themselves, and everyone in the audience was wearing a hat too. If the teacher is a monk, how many minor wrongdoing acts are committed in such an occasion? This is unreasonable, for everyone to wear hats to listen to Dharma. In some places, everyone listens to the teachings with shoes on. Actually, the Vinaya Sutra stated such rules. It's not something unique to Tibetan Buddhism. Many monasteries, including some teachers, may not have had formal study and contemplation before. They might not understand. Now, we should take advantage of this great opportunity for both teachers and lay people to ensure proper conducts when they listen to the Dharma. So we must listen to Dharma properly. We often see from listeners and say, "Oh, the Dharma followers in that place listen properly." You can tell from their behavior. There must be a teacher giving proper teachings there. You can immediately see that the people there are very well behaved and follows instructions. You can tell right away that these people have definitely listened to the Dharma before. And in other occasions, you can tell these people have definitely never heard the Dharma before. You can see it immediately. So it's very important to listen to the Dharma properly. Otherwise, if we create negative karma through Dharma, it is completely unreasonable. The text discusses both behaviors to avoid and those to cultivate. In the Jataka tales, listeners are advised to take the lowest seat, demonstrating humility. One should cultivate a dignified bearing of complete discipline, looking at the teacher with eyes brimming with joy, drinking in their words like nectar, and maintaining total concentration. The teaching emphasizes how a student should approach learning, with profound respect, humility, and eager attention. The teacher transmitting the Dharma traditionally sits on a high Dharma seat. The disciples should sit lower than the teacher. The teacher shouldn't sit on a very low, small stool, while each disciple sits on a luxurious high chair or sofa. This is also unreasonable. Now, during some lectures, they place the computer or TV at a lower place, and some listeners sit on high stools. This doesn't seem very proper, even though it's not the actual teacher, but the teacher's image is there. We should listen with respect always. This way it also feels more comfortable. I've seen many Dharma friends outside listen to teachings through TV with proper manner. In fact, proper mannerism is very important. If conditions allow, all kinds of favorable factors are gathered. It's best to sit on the floor. If it is inconvenient due to your leg problem or your poor health, it's okay to sit on a sofa and listen. This is also acceptable. But if the house is particularly small, it's okay for a few people to sit on the sofa. I've seen many Dharma friends' conducts during their studies. There are faults and merits observed. The first concept is to observe whether it's proper, such as whether they are wearing hats, wearing shoes, or how they are sitting. Many people's behavior must be proper during teaching. This is very important. As we just said, disciples should sit below. I remember in the past His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche once gave a teaching in the main sutra hall. Some Dharma friends were sitting on the steps on the left side. Later, the teacher appeared unhappy, saying, "Are you sitting higher than me? If so, there's no need for me to teach. Why don't you teach me instead? Do you remember what the Vinaya Sutra says? Everyone on that side on the steps, come down immediately." That's what he said at the time. When listening to the Dharma, you should possess a gentle and respectful demeanor, a very humble demeanor. And you should also look at the teacher with joyful eyes. But don't be too joyful, constantly smiling. While the teacher is giving a lecture, you smile and wave hands. What's the point? It's unnecessary. You should listen properly and respectfully. That's all you need to do in the audience. There's no need for anything else. Like drinking nectar, just listen attentively and devotedly like you are savoring nectar. In the past, we discussed Discourse on Meeting of the Father and the Son, which was translated by Master Ritchen and others in the Song dynasty, also translated by imperial decree. There is a sentence in it. With skillful means, the teacher shows the real path to the unconditioned nirvana. Those who seek the path of peace and bodhi shall venerate the teacher and stay close to him. I like this teaching very much. This one was translated during the Song dynasty. A skillful and wise teacher teaches the true path to nirvana. As someone who aspires to tranquil enlightenment, he should follow the teacher with a joyful and respectful heart for a long time. We should pay respect to the teacher with a joyful heart. I originally had a lot more to say, but time is running out. According to what's been said here, we must eliminate all disrespectful behaviors. That's it for today. I'll stop here.
Bandara